think that would be good tonight. Okay, we are live.
I think we'll get a little faster.
Yeah.
Okay, Jane, did you say you saw Jane? Jane, are you on there? Can you hear us?
Yes,
Okay, all right, good. Did you send your vote?
yes, I can hear.
Okay. Did you
I'm
send them?
texting now.
No, thank you.
I'm texting now.
All right, thank you.
And I don't know if you guys know, we don't have any video, or at least I don't have any video of you on my end.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't either.
Oh, it would show, wouldn't it?
We
Hey, you
can't
must
see
have-
you.
They must not have set that up when they set the room up, so
Okay.
my apologies.
Oh,
Count your votes.
You may just have to let me know who's saying what then so I can take accurate
Well-
minutes.
Somebody be in charge of that.
just say your name.
All the job.
Yeah,
Be in charge of that. You're so funny.
I think it's 7:00, so I call this meeting of the Trails Board of Trustees to order. We'll begin with roll call.
All right. I usually put people in order just so I kind of know what I'm doing, but nobody's in order. 'Cause I can't see you. So Patty,
Here,
Goldie,
Here.
Chris, Mike,
Here.
Carlin,
Here.
Leanna,
Here.
Becky here, Jane,
Here,
and who am I missing?
Dan.
And here.
Oh, all right.
and, okay, okay. And are you the gentleman with the insurance?
Yes.
Okay, so just checking.
Yeah,
That's almost like
and I'm
anybody-
Cal, if I have to
If
sign.
there's anybody for public comment, a couple things before we start. There's a lot of information to cover, so let's just be aware of that and focus and make sure we try to stay on track. And just remember to, that everything you say, just speak carefully and clearly.
That's a good way to put it. Because the secretary is virtual, so we
Yeah,
want to make
sure.
sure, yeah, we want to help her.
Okay, so first thing on our agenda is, the consent agenda, and before we do that, I want to say thank you to Leanna for taking minutes, and since Becky couldn't be here last month, we appreciate that. All right, so consent agenda, and that should include minutes from the January meeting and February meeting. Any,
And President, I move we accept the consent agendas as presented.
I'll second. This is Mike.
That was Goldie who said it.
Goldie first, Mike second, has made a motion to accept the consent agenda. Any discussion, comments? All right, Becky, will you take the vote, please?
Okay, Patty,
Yes?
Goldie,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Carlin,
Yes.
Leanna,
Yes.
Becky, yes, Jane,
yes,
and Dan.
Yeah.
Okay, motion carried. We don't have any unfinished business, so we will move on to Cal, you go by Cal?
Yes.
Cal Taylor from Assured Partners. He's going to speak to us about, insurance coverage on several items.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so my name's Cal Taylor. I've met a few of you all before, but I live here in Warrensburg, from Warrensburg, and you all have been, the insurance was with Don for a long time with Insurance and Benefits Group. Insurance and Benefits Group turned to Assured Partners, basically same place, different sign. I started working Don's last couple of years, and then I got to meet Tessa, and we've worked together for the last few years. So it's been really fun and really exciting. So this is the first time I've got to come to a board meeting, so that's very cool. And the reason that we thought it would be a good idea, we sat down a couple of weeks ago, Jackie, Tessa, and I, and kind of, there are, just because of the way the insurance industry is going, there are some more insurance policies outside of like your general liability and property that are becoming pretty, important and impactful for organizations. So these are just things that are, it's not, luckily there's no renewal date coming up on these. These are just things that we were thinking would be a good idea if the board thought so too. So I think you guys probably saw some details on each of these, but there's really 3 policies that we're looking at. There is a cyber insurance policy, there is a EPLI policy, which is employment practices liability, and then there is a wind and hail deductible buyback policy. And so I want to talk about each of those, and then Jackie, is that how you think should we talk about each of them, or what do you, okay. So there are a couple that I think you guys have probably heard of for sure. So cyber insurance, you guys have likely heard of that, of course. With cyber insurance, you may think the number one attack was, in terms of cyber insurance, was ransomware. You might also call it cyber extortion. And that's where someone is getting into your computers, your systems, and it's basically saying, unless you pay us this $500,000, this $1 million, we're not going to let you use your system. We're going to keep you offline. So that is, and like I said, that's called cyber extortion. And what happens there is if you have a cyber policy, then the claim would be literally paying those people out. And so until this last year, that was the most common type of cyber attack. So this policy that I have in place, it addresses that need. And then the other big cyber claim you'll see is called business email compromise, which is a BEC claim. And so that's when, let's say that there's a vendor of trails that you pay regular invoices to. Maybe someone hacks into their system and can just literally take over your email, almost as if they're masking as a different person, email you, ask you for the payment, and you pay it just as any other bill or invoice, but it turns out it was a fraudulent account. And that has become the number one cyber claim. Those 2 claims are the most common, but a cyber claim can be anything. It can be someone breaches your privacy and steals all. So like the employees within Trails, like they have their health accounts and health insurance and personal information. That can all be breached, and that would be a cyber claim if someone were to get into that information. All things like that. So that's what this cyber insurance would do. It would cover any kind of claims. It would cover first-party liability, which is any damage to Trails. But then also, if someone were to hack into, let's say someone hacks into Trails system, even though we do have the firewall and the security, which is great, and that helps with the premium. But if someone were to get into Trails system and were to be sending out fraudulent emails that were, maybe someone hacked, it said it came from Jackie, but Jackie didn't send an email. And it looked like a bill or an invoice, so somebody pays it, well, that goes off to some other account. Yes, Trails was not damaged directly, but we're somewhat liable because it came from our email system. So that would be third-party liability. So this policy covers both first-party liability and third-party liability at $1 million limit. And so the annual, and so I put everything in annual terms, and these can start at any time. Even though we're not at renewal date, these can start at any time. So for the cyber insurance, the annual premium is $2,761.50. And I kind of look at cyber as, it's not one of those, right now, it used to be a claim that you're just hoping it doesn't happen. Right now, it's not really an if, it's just kind of a when. And it can be pretty impactful. So that is one policy that I think, Tessa and I have been talking about for a while. Jackie and I talked about, UCM had a cyber attack this year. I think you told me a story about a friend of yours that had a cyber attack.
Kansas City.
Yeah. And, so yeah, so that's one policy that I think would be pretty important. Does anybody have any questions on the cyber, what it covers? It's through a company called Synergy, which Synergy is, technically a cyber insurance broker, and they have a number of different cyber insurance carriers that they choose from. And it's pretty much the same coverages. It's just maybe this carrier works on, nonprofit organizations. Maybe this carrier does, municipalities, something like that. So that's why we went with Synergy. But yeah. The second policy I want to talk about is employment practices liability. This was actually a policy that I'm not sure, I can't remember if me and Seth had talked about it before, but I think it was the Trails attorney that maybe mentioned that EPLI coverage would be something, good to look into. I would tell you it's become very common in the last few years because as the number of, Missouri I didn't really know this until I got into the business, but the amount of, Missouri is one of the leading states that pays out lawsuits. Like if you look at the number of lawsuits compared to the number that are paid out, Missouri is one of the leading ones because they almost would rather pay out than take the time running through the court system. So you see a lot of settlements. Well, because of that, you also see a lot of people filing lawsuits and suing, and I'm sure you guys all know stories about that. So, so what this coverage does, it basically covers, 7 real areas. It covers if any employees make a sexual harassment claim, a discrimination claim, wrongful termination, failure to promote. We see a lot, especially in our community. Let's say you have an employee who's been around 5 years. You have another employee who's been around 2 years. One has just a lot better work ethic. It happens to be that 2-year person. They get the promotion first. Well, you have that 5-year person who's pretty upset about it. They file a lawsuit for failure to promote. Now, in all reality, the sexual harassment discrimination, we're not seeing a ton of bosses who are really discriminating against their employees or have legitimate sexual harassment claims. We are seeing just a lot of organizations with a lot of turnover, a lot of younger employees, or maybe part-time employees. They're making a lot of claims. And it's almost, this is just the best way to protect yourself against those. And so I think I even told Jackie and Tessa this. I'm not really worried about your workforce discriminating against their employees, but you do have to worry about those disgruntled employees that want to make the accusation just to kind of work the system, because that's just how Missouri has rewarded people in the past. So that's just the way we're dealing with it. The limit on that is $1 million. Kind of how this is pretty, the pricing only really comes from how many employees you have. So the total premium on the year for this one is $4,213. That's a little bit higher because the claims are a little bit higher. And I didn't really say that, but on the cyber, the deductible is about $2,500 depending on the type of claim, and then this deductible is $10,000, which in any sort of lawsuit situation, $10,000 is going to be, pennies compared to the $1 million that it will likely pay in court. So an important one, but yeah, that's that employment practices liability. And so that's a monoline, it's separate. The package through Cincinnati did not offer it. The third type of policy, you guys may have even heard of this on maybe your home, or if you own any commercial buildings. This is the wind and hail buyback, or wind and hail deductible buyback policy. This has become pretty popular in the last few years. Popular, it's kind of just something that we've had to do, and I'll tell you why. So in insurance right now, I'm sure you guys have seen your property values go up, insurance premiums go up, but you've probably also seen your deductibles go up, where you used to want to have the lowest deductible possible because you're getting better coverage. Now we're seeing we're having to raise deductibles and take on more risk to kind of drive down on costs. So if you have any significant commercial building, right now you're probably seeing a lot of wind and hail deductibles, which means, 10 years ago, every deductible was $1,000, $5,000, whatever you set it at. But now they're splitting them up. So you have your deductibles, if there's a fire, if there's a, lightning strike, or, someone backs their car into the building, something like that. But then you have your wind and hail claims. If there's a tornado, if there's a hailstorm, damages your roof. Because those are especially in the last couple of years, those are the highest number of claims, they're splitting that off. So right now with Cincinnati, the deductible is 2%. Which while 2% seems like a low number, that's kind of what the insurance carrier wants you to think. It's actually 2% of the building value. So trails, when you count the building itself and everything inside the building, you're looking at over $10 million in property value. $10 million in property value that is in close range. So the reason they put a 2% deductible on it is because if there is a significant storm, there's a good chance it's going to affect multiple buildings and cause a lot of damage in property. So let's take this building we're in, for example. So this is building 6 on the policy, and it is a total value of $5.3 million. If you round down, actually. So $5.3 million. So 2% of that, and oh gosh, I had this written. 2% of that would be
Over 107.
It would be. Yes. Oh yeah, right here. Sorry, I got it right from it. $107,000 and $107,185 would be the deductible. Now, if you let's say a tornado does come through and you lose your whole building, well, you're out $5.3 million and you're only paying $100,000. That's not bad. But it's when you have a $200,000 roof claim, or $260,000, I think you said it was, and you're swallowing $100,000 of that. It feels like almost doesn't really feel like you have insurance at that point, whenever it's that kind of claim. Now, and it's per building. So if that were to happen to multiple buildings, the 2% would apply. So there are 2 other buildings that are $2.5 million. You have a $2.9 million building and a 2.4, and then you have 2 other $1 million buildings. But it also extends to those buildings that we just lease and we just have property inside. There's still a 2% on that. So what this policy does is basically, this policy comes into play after one of those claims happens. So let's talk about building 6. So this policy buys your deductible down from $107,000 to $10,000. Or, well, we can choose it. We have a $5,000 quote and a $10,000 quote. So basically, it's just buying us down to a manageable deductible. It's a separate policy. It's not attached to this policy. It runs separate, but it basically just speaks to those deductibles. And it also applies per building. So this policy would pay out, there's a technical limit of $265,000, because if you add up the different deductibles, that's what it would be. But if the storm just hit building 6, it would just buy down that $100,000 policy to whatever we chose. And like I said, there's over $10 million worth of property within trails. So the premium on that, it's going to be higher than the other 2. For the $5,000 deductible, which, like I said, is per building, it is a total year of $15,589. And then the $10,000 deductible, it is a $13,479. And like I said, the reason that is a higher premium than if your buildings were in a 50-mile radius, you would see a lower premium because there's less of a chance that multiple buildings will be affected. But because they're all so close, that's why it's a little bit higher premium, higher risk. My personal recommendation on that, the highest claim you're going to have, or the majority of your claims are going to be wind, hail, and deductible. So the $10,000, I think, is a little bit more reasonable if you, in the event of a claim, in one of those large claims, because if you have a $5,000 claim, we're gonna have the conversation of, does it make sense to turn in this claim, or does it make sense to pay this out? So we're not seeing it in the insurance rates. But you have a $10,000 claim, or if you have anything over 10,000, you're definitely gonna wanna claim it, so. That's my thoughts on that.
Is there a higher number, like 25,000? Can you do it that way?
I don't know if they will offer a $25,000.
Okay.
It's something I could look into, if we think that'd be a good idea.
I feel like we could swing around the 10 in an emergency, but,
Right, no, I completely understand.
yeah.
And the one thing, and just my initial thought on that is the deductible difference is not gonna be as much as we want. That 5 to 10 is where we usually, is where they get the bulk of the premium, and it's about that $2,000. But I don't think going up 25,000 based off these numbers, you'd be like, oh, we'll probably save another 7,000 or 8,000, but I don't think that's what we'll see. But I think it's worth a look.
I'm not really in charge, I was just asking.
No, I think it's a good question.
The board would
I think it's a good
tell you
question.
that.
But that is why I know we quoted the 5 and 10, because that's where we see most of the savings.
Okay.
But thank you for the question. Is there any other questions on the wind and hail deductible buyback?
What did you say it cost a year?
So per year for the $10,000 premium is $13,479.90. $5,000 premium is $15,589.35. The other thing to kind of think about on that, it is what they call an excess lines policy, because it's a little bit higher risk. Those do not come, here we lying to you. I don't think that they had a payment plan on it, so we would have to do a separate finance agreement. And there's typically interest on a finance agreement. So that'd also be something to think about, when it comes to the payment plan. And those are kind of running anywhere from 8% interest to 14% right now, just on finance plans, if we didn't want to pay in full. And how that will also work is it will run, so I gave you guys annual amounts because that's what we'd be facing at renewal, but it has to follow the property limits since it's covering the property. So if the property renews in October, like it does right now, this policy, if we issue it, let's say we issue it tomorrow, just for sake of conversation, it will do that, 7 months of policy. So it'll actually be less, but the annual total is still this amount. So
Right.
I didn't want to present those numbers and make it look like less than it was, because then next year we'd be having a whole different conversation when it renewed at double the price. But we also Jackie talked about maybe moving, because October kind of is a tough renewal date, just for budgeting reasons, maybe moving to a July renewal date. So Tammy's already kind of looked at, is that gonna be a feasible idea this year, or do we need to run it out and plan for it next year? So, but that's something we've already been looking into, so, something we're working on. I would have liked to have I've ended that conversation, last year, I ended that wind and hail buyback deductible conversation with, property is looking okay. It's starting to level out a little bit. And then we had all the storms in the south and all the fires in California. So now I can't tell you what's going to happen to the property. Because regardless, 11 of last year's, there was $14 billion storms in America, and 11 of those were in the Midwest. So while that's what we see on the news, we're still battling that. So I'll keep updating you guys as I find out, but it changes every day. And it seems like, I don't know about you guys, it seems like we get more storms every year. It doesn't help whenever property's going up, so. I know I threw a lot at you right there. I tried to bring cookies, it was an insurance conversation. Insurance is the most catchy. I know, you guys missed out on that, I apologize. But is there any questions on any of the policies, cyber, EPLI, wind and hail buyback, anything like that?
I have a question.
Yeah.
This wind and hail is above and beyond the insurance that we already have. What is our premium now before this is added on to it?
Right. So let's say that if we stayed exactly where we are right now, we have insurance coverage, we have $1,000 deductible on the buildings, but we have that 2% wind and hail currently. So none of this is going right now, but the total for the package, so this does not count the workers' compensation, but we have a package through Cincinnati Insurance, and the property, including equipment breakdown, is $40,000, $40,612 for every building, there's some equipment out in the open. I think it's like the book.
Book drops.
Yeah, the book drops.
We have a shed.
Yes, the shed, yep. And then everything inside the building. The property coverage on that is $40,000.
Okay. So this would add another, say, 13,000 to that 40,000.
Yes, it would add on to that because it's basically, which I know seems pretty significant, but when you kind of break it down and look at that, what that 2% truly means, and when you think about what your highest chance of having a claim is, the reason our rate is low, when I don't want to say low because I know it's higher than it's ever been, but the reason the premium is so much lower than if we had a wind and hail buyback is because the insurance carrier knows they're saving themselves quite a bit right now. Thank you for the question.
Yes, thanks for the answer.
Anybody else have questions?
Timeline for that, like I said, that can be a discussion you guys have, and that can happen at any time. These quotes I know are good for 30 days. We got them about 2 weeks ago, so probably another 2 weeks. But every time I've reinstated these quotes, the premium hasn't changed on it. I will say that, like, I'm not necessarily, if any of these policies you think would be, beneficial, the cyber would be a full year. The EPLI would be a full year, and then the only one that we would prorate is the wind and hail deductible because it has to match the property. Are there any initial thoughts on anything? Do any of those seem more advantageous than others? Are the ones that cost a little less?
The employment practices liability one would be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think that one would be too.
Yeah, I think so too.
And when Cal and I met, Tessa met with Cal, we didn't budget for any of this, so
Yeah.
it would have to be put in the new budget and start July 1. Or gave me instructions to pull from somewhere else, which is a possibility.
And you're also probably wondering, maybe 6-7 years ago, the package might have had EPLI coverage on it. It might have had a little bit of cyber coverage on it because those claims were not being made.
Right.
And especially not, I don't have to tell you guys about social inflation and how much the court pays out every year, but that is why you're seeing, okay, now it's an additional expense because we had to go somewhere else and get it because they don't just do throw-ins anymore on the package.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why. Yeah.
Basically, we need to discuss this and let you know.
Yeah, whatever you guys think.
I'll let Tessa know and Tessa will reach out.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And then, whatever we need to do. And I'll still work on let the office know that we may be more interested in a $25,000 deductible, or just see if they have it, because it's not gonna hurt to look, so.
I just did that. So if anybody else wants to throw it out.
Any other hires.
Yeah.
No, I see what you mean, though, yeah.
Anybody else have anything they need to ask Cal before he goes, or? I mean, you can say if you want. I don't know why you would want.
We're not that excited.
You're welcome to stay, but.
Oh, no, I appreciate it. Well, thank you very much. I've been looking forward to meeting you all, and I spent a lot of time here. I was in this year's climb class, so we spent a lot of time here, so that was fun. So, but no, and I know it's a hard market right now. Cincinnati is a great carrier, and so I've had this conversation with, Jackie and Tessa. Right now, the market, they're not wanting to write a ton of business, so we're trying to make the most friends we can in the marketplace. And from the cyber aspect, they're doing a lot of great things internally with like firewalls, cyber quizzes, classes. So they're doing all the right stuff. So.
Good.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, absolutely.
We need to like,
And the cookies, even.
Oh, absolutely. I know. Don't look at them. You gotta windshield them.
Thank you, Cody.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Put a wall out.
Thank you. And if there any more conversations of next week or something, we have to. Happy to go through it.
All
Just let me know.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Cal.
So,
I can pass them down if you guys want them.
just pass them around.
Come on in right now. We'll see how it goes. Maybe over here going.
I know.
We may all need some sugar before.
If you guys see that package is empty, do not look at me.
Do you want us to make a decision on something tonight, or you just look at this?
You don't necessarily
We're just
have
looking
to.
in this,
I
and
just
you
wanted
said it
him
wouldn't
to.
start till July anyway.
So I would just need to know in order to put it in the budget, so I probably need a decision no later than the May meeting. So if there's any additional information you want to get from him other than the higher
Yeah,
deductible.
does anybody have any other suggestions that we need to get?
I just felt like if we had actual damage,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, do you know how much we've paid out for wind and hail damage previously?
And for me, because we already put aside money, so instead of putting 15,000 to the insurance company, put that 15,000 back in reserve, so you have that if you have. I mean, because we may or may not, and then it could be there for something else, where if you pay it to the insurance company, it's gone. So,
Yeah,
I just thought that it seemed like it was fairly big payment for the amount of money it was gonna save us, because we're probably gonna have to, if there's a lot of damage, we have to do something else. But I don't understand all this exceptionally well, I freely admit, so I may be backwards, and you guys, please speak up, but that's how I felt about it, so.
yeah.
I had coverage similar to that on a dealership, car dealership I had. And it was important then because you could have that hail damage to, 100 cars. or
Right,
yeah,
right.
yeah.
It literally ruined you, but.
Yeah.
Made sense then, I don't know, I see what he's talking about, that 2% can be a ton, but.
Yeah, really.
when it's, if it's just the roof that needs replaced, or,
Yeah.
Instead of the, if it was a whole building.
Right, we're
Yeah.
in trouble.
Yeah. But the main thing, he was, roof, that there's a lot of
So it's
roof damage.
$1,000 a month roughly.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so are we,
There's 6 people on there.
do we just, I'm not sure what we want to do here, or what we need
Some of
to
it
do.
is the equipment that's tied in, and so they count, it shows that there's a person, but no, we only have 4 of
Yeah,
them.
what
'cause I
happened to
think
Becky?
I
Are
think
you still there, Becky?
She might have had to turn her camera on for connection.
I'm still here.
Anybody?
I think
Okay.
these estimates,
Go ahead.
I think these estimates are like if you had a total loss. Like if a tornado came through and took the whole building out, each one of these buildings, that's what they're valued at and the contents.
Okay.
So
Right.
it's not actually like if you just had damage to the roof, it's not really a fair
Right.
estimate of what that would be.
Well, it'd still be, I think it's like a medical thing, you'd still pay that you'd have a 2% of whatever the total value would be. So if it was $80,000 to fix a roof, it would be pretty much on us here. If it was 120, they'd pay,
We say 13.
they pay 13,000,
Yeah,
right?
Right.
And when you, about the the 5K premium, 15,000, that's, you can divide that by 9 buildings and it boils down to about $1,700 a building.
Yeah, yeah,
The way it reads here is, the current policy reads that trails must pay a 2% deductible per building.
Yep.
2% of the total value must be paid before additional coverage kicks in.
correct.
So I think that would be regardless of.
That's right. If
how
there's
much
a
damage.
$10,000 damage, that's correct.
Yes,
Yep.
you still are on.
That's-
hook,
that's-
like
that's
they
how
did
I'd
for
interpret it anyways.
107,000, yeah.
Yeah,
And this, if this roof gets ripped off by a tornado, it's gonna be a ridiculous amount of money.
oh, it's
It's gonna be a lot more than just the roof,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah, you're gonna,
for sure.
So
personally, I think it's a good investment.
Well, I mean, you're talking
All
$1,000
three of
a
those
month
options.
for all of the branch, I mean, that's divided amongst all the branches. It's a lot of money, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not that
And
much
that's-
money.
Total just per year, right?
Yep,
Yes.
the 15,
So that,
yeah,
that's what,
For the first year, that one would be.
Yeah.
The hail, wind and hail,
yeah.
buyback would be, prorated, but the other two would be for an entire.
We'll go ahead and vote to accept it.
Starting July 1.
Mm-hmm. Only reason I say that is because we did the budget already.
All three of them are about 20,000.
Total.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the premium for all three of those things would be about a little more than $20,000. So, yeah, that's, what's your pleasure?
it's $138 per facility a month is what that
Yeah.
is insurance is
When you
costing.
break it down like that, it doesn't seem.
It doesn't seem like very much when you have, you
It's a
know,
bargain.
I know, I'm terrified every time this wind blows. I had the barn roof blow off my barn here just, not this time, but the last time.
Oh, God.
It scares
Oh,
the crap out,
jeez. Yeah.
that kind of. But yeah, for $138.88 a month, roughly,
Per building.
per building, per facility is what that $15,000 equates to. Yeah, to me, it's a lot of money, but still,
It's a lot of buildings. too.
it's a lot of,
It's
yeah.
a lot of
We
buildings,
have
too.
quite a
So-
huge investment here.
I
Well,
learned that about my house.
what, does anybody have something they wanna recommend or make a motion about? Or do we just wanna look at each other for a little bit?
Well, do we want to go through the process of having it bidded out, or do you just want to go with what we have?
That on our behalf, they look and see all the different ones and it's kind of like the Gordian with the
Yeah,
capital project. They're doing that on our behalf already.
okay. They're
Obviously,
they're an insurance broker.
Yes. Thank you.
Ages ago.
Okay? Anybody, nobody?
Anybody want to make a motion?
Yeah, I already said that one.
Yeah, I don't know what our motion would be. Are we looking to adopt, to approve that? Is that what we're talking about doing right now?
What y'all would like to do, if you,
Yeah.
that you want it to be
Well, what Dan said, let's approve it starting
July 1.
July 1. Or, I mean, I guess we can go over this again in another meeting if you wanna wait and think about it and something change the numbers or anything.
Yeah.
Let's wait till next month when the prices change.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
probably right.
We
Yeah.
already said we're gonna
That's
get,
probably right.
and we can't play games with that.
No.
It'll go up.
And to me, your $2,000 difference between a 5K payout or a 10K payout, the difference between 25 is probably gonna be another couple grand,
Yeah.
which ends up being another 12 or 15 bucks per branch a month,
Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
I hate insurance. It's the biggest money waste, earning money every month.
But it can help.
But at the
Something
same
happens,
time,
you're-
I had a house fire
You
about 6 or 7 years ago, and without it, I'd have been completely screwed,
Yeah.
so.
I think
Yeah.
for Jackie's benefit, we need to decide,
Yeah.
and so we can get it in the budget.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it's a great idea personally.
Somebody wanna make a motion? I Let's make a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve. So are we talking about all three of them or just the Hale? Because obviously the employment, I forget what he's
I
calling
think
it.
that's important.
I think we all know the importance of that right now.
That would be however you make the motion, if you want to
Yeah.
include all three policies.
Yeah,
or if
I
you want to
would-
do them individually.
I personally believe all three are a good idea. And again, I hate the amounts, but the other ones are all relatively cheap. But so I guess I would move that we accept these insurance bids. Is that enough for you?
Would we need to specifically say which deductible we're
Yeah.
looking
So I think that the first two were just a set amount, and the other one had the two.
Yeah.
And I personally, once you break it down, okay, I would say that we approve the $5,000 level, but that's just, if
Okay,
anybody
so
disagrees, that's fine.
you're making a motion that we accept the wind hail and hail gap, the cyber and the EPLI, and the wind and hail at the 5,000 deductible.
You said that much better than me, but yes.
Well, that's all right.
I'll second. This
Okay.
is Dan.
And Mike made the motion and seconded.
Thank you.
The motion's been made and seconded that we, approve, let's see now,
Additional insurance.
yeah, approve, getting the additional insurance, wind and hail, gas, cyber, and EPLI. Any discussion? Okay. Can you please take a vote, Becky?
Yes. Dan,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Becky, yes. Leanna,
Yes.
Carlin,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Goldie,
Yes.
Patty.
Yes. Okay, is that everybody? All right. So motion carried. The motion was to accept all three of those. Yeah, okay. All right. Oh, but we didn't say starting in July. Can we add that to the motion? Do we have to do it again?
I don't think you have to add it to them.
Yeah, I
I
think,
had put that in the minutes because
okay.
it was said during that.
All right, well,
That works.
yeah, okay. All right, so we're ready to move on, I think. Okay, Susan, we're ready for you. All right. Thanks for waiting.
Oh, no worries.
Forgot you were there.
Hopefully you've all had a chance to kind of look over the tier study, and I'm just here to answer any questions that you guys have about it. Whether you've got questions about how we arrived at the numbers or our recommendations or.
I have a question. Okay, if we approve the new chart or whatever, what specific changes is that are going to occur because we did that?
Right away, nothing. Even
waiting, I mean.
like immediately tomorrow, nothing's going to change.
Okay.
We're probably looking at, we're gonna have to ease into this because we're not firing anybody, we're not hiring anybody right now until, money is available for that. At a position, right. And so it's probably gonna be fiscal year 27 before there's actually gonna be a real change. We're just wanting to get this started and approved so that as the numbers come in from like next year's numbers, this year's numbers, we can add it to that and see how those, see what we need to improve. Because I know we've got a couple of branches that are saying, I could really use more help. And the data supports that, but it's gonna take us a while to get there.
Yeah, we have to figure out, which branches maybe need to be open more hours or maybe fewer hours and then, before we make all the adjustments, because it could be, financially, it could cost us a little bit if we have to add positions or whatever. So
Yeah.
we want to take a kind of soft approach to it, as far as making any changes. And we did have two branches, that moved down tier. Each of those.
I did see that.
Well, I have a problem with one thing. I saw that door counts were used, and I don't know that that's going to be a true accurate thing, because Warrensburg has people that just stay all day at the library, and they come in, they go out, they come in, they go out. And so they could add quite a bit to Warrensburg's door counts.
That is true, they can, but they're also utilizing our facility. So we are a public facility and they're coming in, they are part of the public.
Well, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying they come in the door and they're not just staying in the building. They go out and smoke a cigarette, they come back in, and they may do that 10 times through the day.
Right. Even if you look at the numbers, even if we took Warrensburg's door count down by a third, they're still going to be in that high level.
Well, I know, because it is a bigger city, it's a bigger library.
Right.
And their door counts would be higher, but I still think some of that maybe traffic coming in and out. I mean, even if you count kids, you guys have a bigger
Cool.
you have a bigger program for story time, and I mean, a kid will run through a door 3 times before an adult gets to it.
They can.
And Carlin, I think that's one of the reasons why we use several different statistics and criteria to categorize them, because there are and that may not even be the only thing. If you look at the numbers, the total impact for Knob Noster, it's just barely over that 80, which if you look at this chart, should have left them, moved them up to 3.
Right.
But because they also had the Smithsonian exhibit, and with it being just 2 numbers over, we want to give it a little bit more time before we decide that they need to be moved up.
Right.
So there's a lot of factors, and this was very hard. We had a lot of discussions on
Yes, we did.
Yes.
what we needed to use and everything, so.
I didn't see anything in there about circulation. Did you not use any information about circulation at all?
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
I don't see it.
There's a line for circulation.
This is about how we determine.
I'm
These are all
looking at the
stats.
wrong chart. Okay, I'm looking at the wrong chart.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we did.
And then, so each branch, and then, so here's all the things, here's their open hours,
Oh,
here's
yeah,
their
I did look at
staffing,
that chart. I did
collection stuff, and then these all went down to add to these numbers. Is how we got how she did the numbers and everything, to get the total impact numbers here. We didn't look at all of these things.
What is that total impact number? Is that percentage? Is that?
If you look at the chart and you go down the chart, you get 100.
Yeah, I got that. Okay.
And so each one is taking their percent of the pie, and then we're adding those percents across. So of course, it's not gonna be 100 because Warrensburg's got lots of 50% or 46%. But that was the best way I could see of manipulating the data to get those comparisons.
She did this once, and then we're like, well, we probably shouldn't include that, because that really should be driven by their tier.
And we need to put this other thing in, so.
Yeah, it's hard. It is good that you use several different criteria to.
Right. Because if we just went on door count, I would agree with you totally, Carlin, that Warrensburg's would be overinflated.
Yes. And so long run down the line, what kind of changes is this going to make if they drop down a tier and stay down?
Right away, we're not envisioning any real change. It might be something that if someone retired at that branch that maybe shouldn't have as many people, we just wouldn't replace that person.
Okay.
So we're not looking to make drastic changes or do anything like that. Because honestly, after we've gotten several years of data, which fiscal year 27 will put us a few years of data, we'll have a much better idea of where everybody should be.
And give us a chance to analyze what changes need to happen for each branch to fit them into that new tier.
Well,
Right.
and would those changes have to be approved by board before they're implemented?
If we were adding a position, absolutely.
Well, or even changing the hours or changing how many employees are at any branch or?
I think that's what you're looking to approve tonight is that range. You know, if they're in a level 4, this is the range of their employees, this is the range of hours they should be open. So if you approve that tonight, then we won't have to come back to you with each little thing because you've approved the range. But you would obviously be approving if we added any positions.
So when you say the range, you're talking about this second chart, right? This one right here.
Yeah.
This chart, yeah, and which is basically a policy change.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay. But all the rest of it on that policy is the same except for that chart.
right. Right, that chart and explanations for that is the only change. The rest of it is exactly the same.
Where it says express branch, that is the same as the old one.
Yeah.
The first part is what has changed.
Okay, just making sure.
Mhm.
Yeah. Good. Okay, anybody, more questions? So basically, you're just looking at numbers and trying to figure out what's the best way to set up your branches and make that most efficient.
Make them most efficient, make them able to serve the patrons, and do it without having our employees work to the bone.
And other branches having maybe too much staff.
Right, and sitting around not doing as much, so.
Balance. Okay. Okay, anybody else, more questions? No, Goldie doesn't have any. Anybody else? Okay, so what?
How many, I do have a question. How many years have you, how far back have you been collecting data?
Okay, that's a very good question. Unfortunately, COVID put a big footprint of smash all over the data. Our data, this last year is really the first year that we have anything that's comparable to 2019. And in 2019, we were not keeping all the same stats that we're looking at for the levels. They were mainly keeping circulation and door counts and a few other things, but it wasn't consistent, which is why if by not implementing till 2017 or 2027, I'll get the year right.
Going forward, not back.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
going back in time.
By not implementing everything until then, we'll have a much better idea of where everybody lands because we'll have another 2-3 years of data. Yeah.
So you don't think maybe we should collect at least another year's worth of data before we make a decision on this?
I don't think it's going to make a difference for the policy as far as where the tiers will land, because we've spread them out enough that I think we can be reasonably sure that this is where people are going to land. But having the extra data will enable us to really work through any issues or problems we might have.
And if the data does show that we need to move, then that's when we would bring that back to you guys
Right.
for approving those changes to the policy. But it wouldn't take as long.
No, it would not.
Now that we know how we're doing it, yeah.
Yeah, I know which data we're collecting. I have a spreadsheet that we'll be adding to every year so we can, keep track of everything better.
Okay, so you want us to approve policy A103 as it is, what do you call this? Tier chart?
Yeah,
Yeah, with the new tier chart? Okay, with the new tier chart. The new tier chart, I say that 5 times, tier chart, okay. Tier chart. I didn't even say it right that time. Okay, all right, does, anybody else have any other questions, or do we want to move ahead and make a motion?
I have one question. It's kind of unrelated, like it relates, but doesn't. How often are you planning on reassessing? Since COVID obviously affected things, and like Carlin was asking, like, should we wait another year? How do you have a plan for how often? Like, are you going to reassess this every 5 years, every 10 years?
I will be looking the next 3 years. I'll be looking at that data every year. To see how we're doing in the things. After that, after we've kind of got a solid, span of data, we'll probably be reassessing every 5 years.
I was just curious because I noticed like the last time it was really assessed was in 2011, 2012.
Overdue.
Problem.
I just really think if we're going to change our our policy, that we should have, it shouldn't just be 1 year's data. I feel like it should be maybe at least 3.
But I think that's why they're trying to do it in 27.
Well, but
So
they're
they can
wanting us to vote on it now to change policy with 1 year's worth of data. Because we're changing policy.
Right.
But what we're really changing is the way that we view that data, not necessarily the data.
Yeah, none of
No.
the rest. is
No, we're changing policy. So
And
you
there-
you
Go ahead, Carlin. Sorry.
so you figure we're changing policy on 1 year's worth of data. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I just think we should have more data before we actually change policy.
But she said she's not going to change anything right now, she just wants to.
But we're giving her the go-ahead right now to do it in 2027 without any further additional talk about it or anything.
Well, I don't think that's what she said.
It's not what I intended.
Yeah, that's not how I understand it.
Yeah. I think
Because you will have complete control, because we still have to, if we're wanting to add positions, do a bunch of stuff like that, it still has to go through the board for approval. So any major change is gonna come back.
So what sort of minor changes would we be looking at that could happen in the next 2 years if we accept the policy today?
Well, no, we're giving them the okay to change it right now, and they can act upon it right now. She says she may not act upon it until 2027, but it's active as soon as we vote on it.
It's active as far as putting them in the tiers. We would not make any changes until, like Susan was saying, if someone left and we have assessed their branch for all of these, what the tiers are pushing. So their collection size should be this much, their staffing should be this much, their hours should be this much. So we are gonna have to assess every branch before we really know exactly what changes. There again, the hours, adjusting them down would be easy to do now if that was seen that it needed to be in that range. Staffing would be a little harder, it'd be easier to reduce staff if someone left.
Right.
So just say if there was a part-time at Knob Noster, right, and they left and we determined that they need to go down in FTEs or staffing by a half of a person. Well, then that, we just wouldn't refill that position is what it would be. But this would allow us, by changing the policy, as kind of back to what Mike said, this also is changing the policy of how we determine these tiers.
Yeah.
And then we would be assessing annually until fiscal year 27 to make sure that everybody is in the right spot. If they're not, we can bring it back and say, okay, Lexington needs to move up to number 4, or Odessa needs to move up to 5, or Lexington needs to move down to 2. You know, Warrensburg needs to move down to 5. Then we would have to bring that back to you guys as a policy change to this here. But we would be, for the next 3 years, we would be looking at that data annually.
And I would expect you, I mean, even if you don't have it in this spreadsheet form, I'm expecting you kind of know what your branches have been doing, right? I mean, you know,
Yes.
we know that Warrensburg's doing well, we know that Odessa, we know that Lexington, whether it's in this form or not.
I think the biggest change is, like Jackie was saying, is we're changing which data. That's all you're changing with this policy change, is you're giving us permission to look at something besides door count and collection size, or the size of the building, which is really the only 3 criterion that they were using before. So you're just giving us permission to say, yes, we really think you should be looking at all this other data.
And the board can also give us instruction that every year. Yeah, absolutely. That could be included in there, and that the full implementation would not be until, like I said, the fiscal year 27 or whatever the board.
Yep, you can make the motion however you want. I just pulled the data together, my life isn't riding on it.
Oh, I'm sure some
Thank
days it
goodness.
felt like it.
Anybody else have more questions? Does anybody have an opinion, want to make a motion? Does anybody have something else they want to say?
I'm still reading, I'm sorry.
It was a lot.
It is a lot, and I like to do it a few times, so. Yeah, to me, it's more of a grading scale, you know, trying to make sure that you're utilizing people according to that grading scale, which I feel like you probably already do. This is just a little bit clearer version of how you're going to do that grading and scoring.
Right.
So like you said, it gives you
Yeah,
other things
more
to look
metrics,
at
yeah.
than just those
Yeah.
couple of things.
We could vote, we could make a motion to approve the new assessment as proposed, with the understanding that it is, done annually, there is reported annually, and, I don't know, can we say that you wouldn't implement it until a certain date?
Implement changes.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Do that.
Without approval anyways. 'cause
Yeah.
You never know what's gonna happen.
Okay.
Right.
No,
So are you making that a motion?
sounded like it to me.
Yeah. Okay, can you repeat that? Can you repeat that for Becky, please?
Okay, Becky, this is Goldie. Do what you want to, here we go. All right. That we implement the proposed assessment of branch something.
Tier chart.
Tier chart, thank you, branch tier chart, to be reviewed annually and not to be enacted on before 2027 without a board approval.
That was it.
I have like 3 versions of this, so they're all kind of muddled together, but.
Okay, have you got it down, or do you need more?
I think I can piece it together from what I have.
So will you read what you have so I don't repeat read it incorrectly?
Okay, well, it's in chunks right now because I typed it the first time she said it, and I typed it the second time, and I already had kind of one in place. So right now it says to implement the proposed tier chart to be reviewed annually. Approve new assessment as proposed with the understanding that the report would be done annually with no changes until 2027 without approval.
Okay. And
Is
Yeah,
that
Dan,
board-
second.
more readable? Does that sum it up?
Without board approval.
Oh, yeah, without board approval. Good job.
Oh, yeah.
So the motion has been made and seconded. Anybody have more discussion?
And Goldie made the motion. Who seconded?
Goldie made the motion, Dan seconded.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I think we're ready to vote, Becky.
Takes us.
All right. Dan,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Becky, yes. Leanna,
Yes.
Carlin,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Goldie,
Yes.
and Patty.
Yes. Okay, so motion carried, is that right? Did I hear the answers correct? Okay,
Yeah.
motion carried, all right. So,
Thank you, Susan.
sure,
Thank you,
yes,
Susan.
thank you very much, thank you for all your work.
Yep.
Thank you.
Once we've got the new stats.
Okay. Have a good night.
Yep, you too.
What's left of it? Okay. All right. Well, but that's- I figured it would.
Told my husband, I said, don't plan on seeing me.
Yeah, that's what I thought, still be a long time, okay. The next item on our agenda is, where is it? Wait. Oh, the bookmark contest, okay, so everybody voted. Okay, all right, Jackie, got the results.
Okay, so in the age 0 to 4 category, the first choice was, hold on. Sorry, first choice was number 3, second choice is number 1.
Okay.
Sorry. Did this again. For first place in the next age category, ages 5 to 8, we had a tie. So the second choice would be whichever one didn't.
Okay.
So I can have Katie break the tie, or if you want me to.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, however.
Out of these two, but the ties was number 4 and number 2. That was the one. So one would be the first one and one would be the second.
Okay.
And then I totally did this while we were talking.
That's all right.
So in the older category, the ages 9 to 12, the first choice would be number 6, and then the second choice would be number 2.
Okay.
So
So
of course,
which one's number 6?
What's the one with the octopus?
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Oh, with the
That reminds me of reading Ringbound.
I tried to pick ones that had books in them.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I love it. It's like, I love it.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Good.
I can break the tie if you want to, because I didn't vote.
She
But-
can break the tie.
The reason why I didn't vote didn't make it into this round. So
Okay. Well, do you want to break the tie then? So we'll,
yeah, I was gonna vote for number 4 as one of my choices. So
There we go. Okay, so you've got this under control
Yep, I'll
and
give this to Katie.
Okay, that's,
do you want this to go?
oh, I don't care, yeah, sure. I need more paper.
Some people keep their packets,
Well, I do, but I don't always keep everything. I figure I'll find the bookmark next time I go to the library.
Yep.
All right, thanks everybody for doing that, that saved a lot of time. All right, the next item on our agenda is, consider approval of repair and improvements to was a letter there from, I guess it was Roger, that says what they were doing, or
I think
somebody in
from
facilities,
our facilities
from
tech
somebody in
to
facilities.
Colin, and
Yeah.
I think put that together.
So they're, they're moving the book drop and doing something to the alley, or
No,
No,
we're just relocating the book drop.
just relocating the book drop, and then they're
Resurfacing
painting and resurfacing in the back room,
the floor.
okay, and, schools. Why can't I see this?
And some remodeling in the kitchen, right?
But the total adds up to about $2,000, what I figured, so, is there any questions about that?
my only question is, why are they moving the book drop? I'm
It's way over next to another building, and it's really not easily accessible.
Okay.
Most people don't even see it.
See it, yeah, I would agree.
And so if we move it to the other side where, they're talking about, it would be at the end of the sidewalk, and you could actually drive through there and drop your books off. You wouldn't even
Oh,
know.
that'd be cool.
Okay, and then the staff's gonna
I'm
do all-
sorry, could you repeat that?
About the book drop,
Yes, they're gonna move it to where?
so you know where it's sitting now, up next to the chiropractor? Move it
Yeah.
to the other sidewalk, and then you should be able to drive through there and drop your books off
From the alley.
from the alley.
Ah, okay.
on the north of the building, right?
That's what it is.
That's why it's talking about the alley.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
there has to be so much easement and, yeah.
Okay.
I move that we accept all of the suggestions for the Holden Library. That
I'll
was Goldie.
second.
Okay,
I think Leanna seconded it.
was that you, Leanne?
No, that was me, Becky. I seconded.
Right, motion's been made and seconded that we accept all the improvements for the Holden building. Any discussion? No, okay. Take a vote, please.
Okay, Patty,
Yes?
Goldie,
Yes,
Mike,
Yes.
Carlin,
Yes.
Leanna,
Yes.
Becky, yes, Jane,
Yes.
and Dan.
Okay, so that motion carries. So our next order of business is, consider approval to sign the MOU, I don't know, or how you say that, but.
Memorandum of
Yeah, it's like a contract or whatever, yeah. It's an agreement that we have to send that in order to, that's a platform that, where you're gonna sell the old courier van.
We can sell other things too, but that's the intent.
That's
Right
what,
now,
that's
yeah.
what you're doing right now.
Are you familiar with GO?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's an excellent program and makes selling stuff so easy.
Yes.
I mean, you don't have to do anything. They come, give them a key, bye, then you get the money.
You hit a button, I think,
Right.
saying that they picked it up, and then. you-
I would highly recommend this.
You wanna make that a motion?
Holly will make the motion that we sign the MOU with Gov Deals.
Do I hear a second?
I second.
Oh.
I,
Okay. Motion has been made and seconded. Dan made the motion, Mike seconded it, and so did Leanna, so take your pick.
That one was Jane.
that was Jane.
Yeah, I heard Jane first, so I put her.
I'm just getting all the blame today.
Sorry.
going rogue over there. Okay.
Motion's been made and seconded to,
Enact the MOU.
enact the MOU with Gov Deals. Any discussion? All right, let's have a vote, please.
Okay, Leanna,
Yes.
Becky, yes, Jane,
Yes.
Dan,
Yeah.
Patty,
Yes?
Goldie,
Yes,
Mike,
Yes.
Carlin.
Yes.
everybody? All right, motion carried. The next item will be, approval to enter the agreement with the Wilson Group for alternate walkways and stairs improvement at the Warrensburg branch. All right, anybody have any questions about that?
Have comments. Okay, this is Goldie, and, I don't wanna do any of these plans, and I'll explain why. I do think it's important, I want something done, because I want people to be able to walk safely to the set of stairs out there. To me, it seems like, an incredible waste of resources and probably money also to do the meandering paths. What I would propose, I have a post-it, you guys can't see it, is that we go to the west side of the property, and we have two paths that meet basically where the stairs are on the opposite side and come straight across, so it forms a T. And the reason why I propose that is, one, meandering paths for concrete, if we went with concrete, that tends to cost more than if you do straight runs, at least in my experience. I do have some experience with concrete, believe it or not. And the other thing is it would be easier to mow around. It would also leave the area open out there, because I know that they talk about maybe kids going out and playing and stuff. And I just think it would be a better use of the property and of the money. And that's all I wanted to say, so.
That's reasonable.
And I will say they did break it into, they broke the front part off.
Yeah, the
So that
front
we
part
could
off,
do that, if
yeah.
you guys wanted to do that, go ahead and move forward with that, we could do that. And because they knew that, you know, there may be more discussion, or they may have to bring it back or whatever, so.
And I do agree that concrete is a better choice,
I agree.
whatever we do. One, because it would be easier to salt it and care for it, and, yeah, we're just gonna end up muddy otherwise. We'll just have white stuff on the floor.
And then you're gonna just have deteriorating and
redo it,
redoing
yeah.
it, and it's gonna just be a constant thing. All right,
I
so-
agree, it should be more, take it from somebody who has aesthetically placed landscaping. It's not all it's cracked up to be. Straight lines work best. They're easier to roll around and clean off, and all of the above. I agree with Goldie.
I go down to the stairs.
Yeah, they're kind of, they're not exactly straight, but they're pretty close. And I
Those
just,
stairs would have to be.
yes, they do need to be redone, I agree.
so where's
The,
this is
That's the shed or
That's-
the annex.
the annex, and then this is the back door.
and
Okay,
then that would be the street over here.
okay.
Because I think, I mean, it would split it, but instead of doing two things, we're gonna do this way anyway, already.
Yeah, so it makes it kind of a T instead.
Yeah, it makes it a T, and instead of doing two runs across the long part, we would do one straight run. You can pass my highly detailed.
I could see it from when you had it over there.
Architectural blueprints here.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I did draw
Yeah.
a picture
Basically
of
a
my
T
house.
that you're talking about, from the annex straight over, and then meets in the middle,
Yeah,
and comes
Yeah.
over to the back door.
right.
Yeah,
And then, of course, if that is the board's preference, I could take it back to them, they could bring another proposal.
Okay.
At the next meeting.
so are you saying,
I make a
No.
motion that
Go ahead.
I make a motion that we return to the Wilson Group with the idea of having the two sidewalks intersect with one crossing to the stairs. Sorry, because I know you did all this work on it, but it bothered me, so I'm not.
oh, it's
We
okay.
need to do it right.
Yeah, that's
If
part
we're
of
gonna
it.
spend the money. let's-
Yeah, if you're gonna spend that kind of money, you shouldn't just like,
Estimate didn't cost.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Do what?
Mike, I'll second
No,
that.
it doesn't cost anything.
All right.
I'm talking about the rear walkways.
The rear walkways, I'm fine with what is planned on the front side.
okay, but we're talking about the rear walkways now. Yeah, all right, Goldie made a motion,
I second it.
Mike seconded to return to the Wilson Group to have them rebid it,
Yeah.
get a new proposal to do a straight sidewalk from the annex to the street with a T in the middle. That's that's not what you said, but.
It's close enough.
Okay, all right, anybody have any questions? No? Okay, Peggy, take the vote, please.
Okay. Patty,
Yes?
Goldie,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Carlin,
Yes.
Leanna,
Yes.
Becky, yes, Jane,
Yes.
and Dan.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That motion carries. All right, now do we want to look at the
Carefully on the draw.
do we want to look at the step bid? Are we just going away with that? And
Somebody else.
anybody?
That's the one for the 16,000. That would just be the like front steps and hand railings.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Where's what landscaping are they removing and a retaining wall?
So the landscaping is that, it's like a low evergreen shrub creeping thing. It's really low. So it's right out front, where the stairs are that go down to the sidewalk. If you're looking out at Holden Street, it's gonna be to the right of that. It connects almost right there with our driveway. And they would have to build a retaining wall in order to make that a concrete slab. It's on like a slope right now.
And this is in the front of the building?
Correct, yes.
And the steps are the steps that go down to the side, to the sidewalk?
Yep, they're along Holden Street, yes.
I didn't remember there being
I know, I'm looking at pictures. I
I'm
do
like,
not-
I don't remember there being a tree there.
Not a
I
tree,
know.
it's a
I was
low
just there.
evergreen.
Really low.
It's one of those kind of sprawly evergreen things.
I'll take your word for it.
All right, anybody have any opinions about that, or want to make a motion, or you want to just move on?
I wish their pictures were clearer.
Their pictures are terrible. Wish their pictures were better.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could definitely do a better job than that.
But I don't think they gave you a picture of the
I don't
front.
know.
No, not of that,
That's all for the walkway.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's
all.
all.
Right.
Well, there is one that kind of shows that side of the building.
No, I don't think. so.
I'm not
It does.
sure.
Where?
A little bit.
It's this spot right here.
Oh, it does?
Yeah, there's a little red blob there.
Okay.
Okay.
That red blob really says
A
a
little
lot.
red blob.
I'm gonna get a lot for that.
Oh, there it is.
I totally understand it now.
Yeah, I think we need that one. I'll make a motion that we accept to enter into agreement with the Wilson Group for their front entry steps repair and improvements.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded to accept the bid from the Wilson Group for the front steps and improvements included in that. Any discussion? No? Okay. Let's have a vote, Becky. And that, Mike seconded it and Leanna made the motion. Did you hear that?
Yes, thank you.
Can I ask what's wrong with the steps now?
They are cracked in the middle. A chunk had fallen out, and we did a very poor patch job, just so it wasn't a trip hazard at the time, but it's not gonna last. It's gonna have to be fixed.
Okay.
So we thought we'd add the other stuff while we were doing that.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, let's go, please.
Okay. Mike,
Yes.
Carlin,
Yes.
Leanna,
Yes.
Becky, yes, Jane,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Patty,
Yes.
and Goldie.
Yes. That's what we do every time.
Yeah, the rule makes. It's up to you. Something that.
I wish we don't just sweep it under the table. We never do
No,
it
absolutely
again.
not. No, never.
Can we do that? How do we do that?
You just say, we'll take it. And I think you might have to have a motion.
Yeah, did we not finish that motion? Sorry, Jackie's talking to me. Did we vote?
I think we voted,
Did
yeah.
we vote on that,
Yep.
Becky?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
On the Seth? Okay, and, okay, okay, so that motion carried. Do I have to get a motion?
Yeah, you gotta do the motion.
Okay, all right, next on the agenda is the foundation committee report.
I can give the report since I was kind of leading the group. I won't say too much. We met for an hour. There was 3 of the foundation and 4 of the board members. And I think basically we just talked about the fact that none of their goals or policies had been changed in 20 years and that they really were not, following a good many of them and that they really needed to be revised. So we just made a suggestion, and I think the foundation people agreed that they were going to look at their goals, particularly the ones that had these endowments that for $850,000 that they were supposed to be setting up. And then some of the other policies that they had, and to really revise them and look at them and see what they were actually doing and what they needed to follow. I don't know. I know Leanna was there. She took the minutes. And so I don't know if anybody else has any comments.
I just wanted to add one thing. So as far as my role in all the tasks, so I gave a whole list of tasks. It was a whole sheet full of things that either I do or the staff do for the foundation. I think everybody was a little shocked, even the foundation members, that I was doing so much, or the staff was doing so much. So the board, the foundation secretary, she did set up a time to meet with me. So next Wednesday, I'm meeting with her to go over what I'm currently doing, what it's saying in their bylaws that she should be doing, and for us to figure out what I'm going to continue doing and what she's going to take over. And the treasurer was not there, but I would like to also do that with their treasurer as well.
But I think it was more they were saying that this is the way it had always been done, and so that's the way they assumed, that things were going, that's what the way things were. And even though it didn't agree with their policies and procedures, bylaws that they had.
And then all the other directors were fine, so they don't understand why I'm not fine with it, and they missed the whole point. This is your self-governing document. This is what you need to be following. Yeah, Mike was there too.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, I think there's a lot of hurt feelings on their side,
There was.
but when you have new eyes.
Yes.
Of new eyes come in, look at something that's 20 some odd years old, And you go, well, none of this really is valid anymore. It's not really a nitpicking or, it's just, you know, a necessary change that has to happen. And it's, you know.
Yeah, I mean, this is Goldie, and from my perspective, I just felt like we weren't working well together, and we didn't really understand each other, which is why I thought it was a good idea to have everybody meet.
Yeah, I don't think there's a real clear expectation, like their bylaws don't even spell that out.
Right.
But what's the expectation? What's their expectation with working with us even?
And I will add, I have a whole nother page of questions for them, but I felt like I was overwhelming them. So yeah, so I had more questions for them, but it might be more of something like guidance to help them get on the correct path, because I feel after meeting with them that they don't even know exactly what their task is, and definitely if they take a look into their bylaws and start revising that, they might figure that out.
Yeah, we were just trying to make sure that we weren't being critical of them. But yeah, like Mike said, I think there were some hurt feelings there, and we're not trying to be critical. We were just trying to be, you know, kind of objective and point out, you know, some considerations.
We've always done it this way, is a quick way to die as a group. You know, you have to change and you have to update things, in my opinion.
Well, and my understanding from the meeting was that even when they were first established and those bylaws were created, they never followed.
Yeah.
That was the
Yeah. That was my understanding.
And that's the way it is for a lot of groups like that too. I mean, it's, you know, you have this really cool document that means nothing.
Just accept that.
Yeah, what's
I
that?
know.
We
Sure.
have to accept that.
Yeah.
I know that, like, coming out of that, I would like for them to, like I said, revise their bylaws, figure out their new goals, and maybe incorporate working with the board a little bit more as well.
Well, they made the comment many times that they're not like a fundraising group and they don't want to be in charge of all this stuff. So that's really where they maybe ought to reach out. Where they, you know, from us and they,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I
like
don't,
I said, that expectation, there is no expectation. There's no definition of what we should do to help them or they should do to help us. And
right.
that's
Yeah.
definitely something that could improve.
I don't like it that they were upset, because at least from my viewpoint of what we were asking for was more, let's make this work better for everybody.
Sure.
And to do that, we have to understand what everybody's doing. And, because I think there are ways that the board can be of assistance and vice versa, that would be much more effective than what we're doing, because we don't really understand what we're doing.
That's right.
Yeah, and my understanding was some of the hurt feelings came from some of the comments when the discussion happened at our meeting. That was kind of my understanding.
Yeah.
And then they were hurt because I would go to them first.
Yeah.
But I did eventually, after they said it.
Yes.
I did explain, you guys are my boss. If I need guidance or coaching, I'm coming to you guys. I'm not gonna go to them. And I knew it was not gonna be an easy conversation.
Yeah.
Especially when, you know, things have been said about me here in the meeting when I'm in attendance, also when there was a meeting when I wasn't in attendance. And so I was not comfortable going to them
Well,
first.
and I do think things were said at the meeting, but the basic goal of what we were trying to decide was, did we need to have a meeting? And by bringing up some of those things, I think all of us realized that, well, yeah, it does sound like we need to talk to each other.
Sure.
And so,
And one thing that I did touch base was our communication back and forth. Like, could they provide us some sort of quarterly reporting or annually reporting? And I do feel bad because I don't know if I missed the meeting or if I just don't remember it when they did come speak to the board. And they did feel that since Patty goes to the meetings, she should be reporting to us what's going on in those. So I don't know if that's something we need to hash out at some point.
do they have minutes? Okay. And are they online?
Theirs are not, but I keep their minutes And so that is something that I could easily share. It would be draft minutes that I would be sharing with you. If not, you'd have to wait a whole nother quarter to.
Yeah. No, I'm basically, I think to improve the communication would be great.
Well, at some point, they have to admit that they have a problem because they had a misappropriation of funds.
They did that too.
Do you think they?
And they did not feel that they had misappropriated funds because they had met with an investor and they were investing those funds to get a bigger payout before they paid on the principal, which is why they didn't feel that that it was misappropriated.
Yeah, I think
Oh, right, so they felt like it was like anyways, a lack of communication. They ended up deciding because when the CD comes in September, then they're going to take all that money with the extra interest and pay down the principal. And
Well,
so they realized
They didn't communicate that though to the close closet because the close closet
Right.
was donating money not for them to invest and get a better return on it. They donated that money to pay down the building.
right, and we did tell them that, and they just felt like they were trying their best, and it was just they didn't communicate that. Yeah.
I think a lot of it got lost in that quick turnover of directors. Because Karen Hicklin left, and then we had Rochelle, I don't even think she was here a year, and then you had Tanya, and then you had me. So, I mean, you have to learn, and I mean, it takes you at least a good year to get through the whole cycle. So I'm sure a lot of the miscommunication and things, kind of came about then, because I didn't realize they were supposed to be making those payments. I thought it was supposed to go into this fund until I did some research and then figured out, it was, they had been doing these things.
Yeah, I think misappropriation, strong miscommunication is a better example.
Sure, yeah.
And
They
that
didn't
happens
use the
to
money
all
in
of
the
us.
wrong place. They
Oh yeah.
knew what was going on with the money so that the donor knew.
Right, and they had very, very good intentions.
They did, for
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they had good intentions.
Okay, so any more questions, or are you guys, anything else y'all think you need to say?
No.
Okay,
All right.
all right, thank you guys, all of you who went to that meeting and who took the time to do that, and appreciate that. Appreciate you serving on that committee. And did you guys take minutes and get those to Jackie? Okay,
I actually got
Yes.
minutes from Anna, and I got minutes from the care secretary as well.
okay,
All right.
okay.
You each have a set of minutes.
Okay, all right, just making sure. Making sure we got that all taken care of. Okay,
And to answer your question about this next thing, like I was talking about, if you choose to table it, make a motion and then send it back to them. You know, I do, but board accepts it.
okay,
Not that I wouldn't anyway, but.
okay, Jackie suggested that we get a motion to table the discussion on the side lot at the Concordia branch, but I don't want us to just table it and then forget it and wipe it under the table and say, oh, it's no big deal, they don't need that, we'll just move on and forget about that. So if we're gonna do it, then we need to make a motion to table it and bring it back at the next meeting and look at it and not just.
Yeah. And can we get, Jackie, can we get more information for that possibly and speak to the branch manager? Because I know at one point they might not even want to redo that side lot anymore because they were talking about turning it into like a community garden.
Right, and that was gonna be part of the discussion.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Debbie and I have talked, yes, that is what she would like to do, and I love the idea.
Oh, same. Totally.
Okay, so, can I have a motion to that effect?
To table it till the next meeting in April.
I second.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded to table the discussion until, the April meeting.
April.
Say
Yeah.
who's that.
Hmm?
Say who said it.
Oh, yes, I don't know, Leanna.
That was Leanna this time.
Leanna made a motion, and who seconded it? I don't even know. Who?
It was Jane. Jane seconded it.
Right. Motion's been made and seconded to, did I say that already? Okay, anybody else? Any discussion? No? Okay, take a vote, please.
Okay. Jane,
Yes?
Dan,
Yes.
Patty,
Yes?
Goldie,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Carlin,
Yes.
Leanna,
Yes.
and Becky, yes.
Okay, motion carried. Okay, and the next item is board participation in National Library Week. I asked Jackie to put that on there because Foley and I had a little chat as we were leaving the meeting last time, and we thought it might be nice if a board member could go to the different, not the same board member to every branch, but just one of us to each of the branches during National Library Week. And I think it's the 8th, which is on a Tuesday, is Library Workers Day.
Library Worker Day.
Something
yes.
like that. And just, I don't know, what did he say? It doesn't have to be anything big, some cookies or donuts or some flowers or just a nice note, and just somebody show up to say, oh, I appreciate that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be willing, I'll volunteer to go to Concordia and Lexington, and I don't know, Waverly and,
I'll go.
are not open
Yeah,
on-
Jane will go to, I'll go to Odessa. I'll go to Odessa. This is Jane.
Odessa, okay. How about, is there somebody that would be willing to go to Holden? And you don't have to do anything magnanimous, just go and, you know, if you want to take something, or if you want to just write a note, or if you just want to go in and tell them that you think they did a good job, that you appreciate them.
I can go to Holden.
Who said that?
Who was that?
Becky.
Oh,
That was
okay.
Becky.
Yeah, Becky, that'd be a good idea.
Yeah, okay. I just would like to have somebody that goes to everyone. I can go to Quarter and Waverly. They're not that far from where I live. I can do that on a Monday or Wednesday. They don't care for
Yeah,
that.
they're closed like you said.
Yeah, okay.
I can
So
do
that leaves Warrensburg. And who wants to do Warrensburg?
I mean, I could do, Lexington would be easier.
No,
You want to do Lexington?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
all right, I'll let
I'll be
you.
out of
Okay.
town that whole day.
That's all right.
I can do more.
Yeah, I could go to Knob too, unless the road's flooded, but.
I'll just wait.
Oh, in April.
So, okay,
What day are we doing this?
Warrensburg and Knob, Holden, you said Lexington, I'll do Porter and Waverly and Concordia, and are we missing somebody?
That's it.
Then we
That's
missing-
8, right?
Who was going
I
to?
don't think it
Knox?
matters. Yeah. I just think
Um,
sometime that week is.
Yeah, that's fine, yeah, I think that's fine.
One of the things we talked about, like when I worked at the food station, people always brought stuff, was like, maybe some granola bars in a little basket, or some candy, or just something that shows them that we appreciate them.
Yeah, it doesn't have anything big, no. Some cookies that you set out on the table or something.
Hey, I got some cookies. They'll be a little
Mike
stale.
hasn't passed any cookies.
They'll be a little stale by then.
We didn't miss anybody, did we? That's all I wanted to do there. I just thought that was a really good idea, and just a little something that shows people that we know they're there, and we're thinking about them, so.
While we're on the topic of supporting the library, thank you to Katie and Tessa and Susan and Jackie and whoever else was involved in, putting the winners of the Trailblazer Award online. Katie, that was Katie, and then
Probably
allowing,
Haley.
and Haley, and allowing us to present it at the, what was that meeting? All staff meeting, yeah. So.
Okay. that it? Did I miss anything else? Okay, so we're down to announcements.
No, we got the two added ones, did you not?
Oh, I forgot those. Oh,
Yeah.
I got them. I didn't get I didn't pronounce it. I got it, but I didn't print it out. Okay, now we're down to Johnson County ordinance for the senior tax credit. Is there something we need to know on that, or
No,
do you just,
this is just more
informational?
informational because this
Yeah.
will affect our funding. So the freeze would apply for, I believe, whoever applies, it was, the freeze, my understanding is it would apply to this year's taxes. So whatever they pay this year would be their cap, is my understanding. And then moving forward, they would pay, their valuation could maybe go up, but their taxes are gonna be frozen here. So of course, we wouldn't get that additional, even though our valuation would go up. So it is gonna affect our funding. So far, Lafayette has not sent anything, yet. I'm anticipating they probably will before it's over with, but Johnson County, just did theirs on.
Jackie, Lafayette County, the commissioners, they're still looking at that and they're still getting information, but they have discussed it at their commissioners meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any idea of the number of people in the county that would affect?
I don't think it would be
Get that from the
easy
county,
to.
you can get that from the assessor.
You get it for, yeah, or you could
The
get it,
other county.
or you could even do like just a general, it wouldn't be as accurate,
Yeah.
but the census data, like people over, I think it starts at 62, yeah. So,
I thought it was pretty early considering most people have to work till 67,
mm-hmm,
so.
yeah.
Anything more we need to discuss on that?
Not unless you may have any questions, I'll try to answer them or try to find answers for you. It's fairly new, so.
Okay, and then the next thing is the Institute of Museum and Library Services, the executive order that was made to defund that or reduce it.
So again, I gave you a lot of information there. I gave you the executive order itself. Some of these were like copy and pasted from websites, so they don't have all the information in there. That's why I have handwritten where they came from. The ALA statement in response to that, there's the ARSL statement in response. There was the COSLA, statement, their response to it, and then, ALA also included some, frequently asked questions on that. And then I did get from, where did I put it? This evening, I received an email from the state librarian with information, for additional information, so just an update. So basically, they had I gotten some information from IMLS, which is Institute of Museum and Library Services, this afternoon. So basically, Congress has passed a full year continuing resolution through September 30th. IMLS is awaiting review of their funding levels by program from the Office of Management and Budget. After OMB's final review and notwithstanding outside guidance, IMLS plans to issue awards to all states. IMLS expects the fiscal year 25 allotments to be similar to last year's allotments and expects to issue the awards by April 22nd. If the outside review takes longer than expected, IMLS will communicate with the state libraries about issuing partial awards of approximately 50% in April. Since the continuing resolution holds the funding consistent from the prior year, Missouri will likely receive approximately the same amount as in fiscal year 24, which was a little over 3.3 million. For information about how the state's allotments are determined, the IMLS grants to states funding formula document provides a program and funding formula overview. Annually, Missouri State Library staff, they create a project plan to guide how that specific year's library service and technology LSTA funds will be spent and which grants will be offered. Annual plan is a component of the state library's 5-year LSTA plan. Once the actual award amount is known by the Missouri State Library, the LSTA state fiscal year 26 project plan will be created. And then there's additional information on what the fiscal year 25, if anybody wants to see that, I can pass that around, kind of what is, the courier service for public library resource sharing throughout the state. Missouri Evergreen could be affected. OCLC interlibrary loan, they pay for a portion of that. Missouri Digital Heritage, Cloud, the Cloud Project, which is websites for small libraries. STEM kits for checkout by public and school libraries. The Teaching Books Database, Homeless Training Institute, and Niche Academy. And then Gale presents Excel Adult High School. And then it goes into the real money, which is not affected by the LSTA. So you may have any, and then of course, if you don't like what you're hearing, you can reach out to your legislators pretty easily. I think Dan already said that he's done that.
The ALA is easy to contact.
ALA, yes.
Yeah, their website.
Yes.
They quick, and you've written all three of your legislators at the federal level.
That's at the ALA website.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can also sign up for like notifications based on their progress of what they're doing.
And I called all three of mine, spoke to a clerk today, took about 2 minutes per call.
Yeah, it was really nice.
And then I wrote a letter to the editor of the local paper. I'm machine gunning. Just shooting it all out there at once, so.
So this statement that you wrote, what are you doing with it?
So this would be a press release that we would put out. We would also use this on like a Facebook post. We may not use the whole thing, but we would use pieces of it for Facebook posts. We all know what the political climate is currently. And so normally this is not something I would bring to you guys, but I just feel like because everything's so volatile, that I felt like I needed board approval before putting anything out publicly in response to the executive order and the list.
So you just want us to approve you using this letter as, to get information?
As our public statement.
As a public statement, okay. Okay, does anybody want to make that a motion?
I'm gonna ask a question. In the first sentence, it says President Trump has singled out the Institute of Museum and Library Services. Do you mean singled out of all the library options, or singled out this specifically? I don't like singled out, because it sounds like that he's changed and like he's picking on that.
Right, and there's a lot more. Sure.
Yeah,
There are other options, so that's-
there's other places.
Other than
And
that.
just to be honest with you, this came from another library director, and I modified it for us. So we don't like to recreate the wheel if we don't have to, but
Right.
certainly I can see where that.
I can see where that would immediately make some people not wish to read it.
Mhm.
But other than that, I thought it was accurate and easy to understand.
Yeah. So what do you think she should say? Singled out, has chosen to.
Says included.
Yeah.
Yeah, included.
As
in library service.
Included is good. You ought to be a writer, man.
That's right. Yeah, singled out does sound pretty derogatory.
Yes, I
There's a little
didn't even
bit
catch
Then
it.
you might edit and approve.
There you go.
There you go.
Okay, so, anybody else have any other thing they want to comment on? So we need a motion to allow Jackie to use this as their, what did you say? I can't even think.
Press release.
Press release, thank you.
Yes. Public statement, because we'll use it for other
Public
things.
statement, public statement. Okay. Okay, I'm tired. I'm gonna make a motion that we allow Jackie We allowed Jackie to use, the public statement that she's prepared to get information out to the public about, the executive orders regarding IMLS. Okay. Who's seconding that?
I'll second.
Okay.
Dan.
Motion's been made and seconded. I've made the motion, Dan seconded it, that we allow Jackie to use this public statement as, to contact the press and get out some information to the public. Any discussion? Okay. Let's vote.
Okay, for the motion, it's to allow the statement to be used with the change, correct?
Yes, I'm sorry. There, thank you.
Okay, we're ready for vote?
You're ready to vote, I think.
Okay. All right, Carlin,
Yes.
Leanna,
Yes.
Becky, yes, Jane,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Patty,
Yes.
Goldie,
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, that motion carried. All right, now, did I miss anything? Okay, I think that we're ready for announcements.
So the only announcement I have was just when National Library Week is, so April 6th through the 12th. And then I did want to say, this isn't on your agenda, but checks, since the other officers were virtual tonight, we're going to need somebody that can sign the checks. I can send them by courier tomorrow to a local branch. So this will be Carlin, Jane, or whoever, Becky. So I can send them to a local branch, or you can come to the office.
I can just come into Warrensburg.
Okay, yep, that'll work.
Is there a certain time?
No. Would that be tomorrow, you're thinking?
Yes, early would be better.
Okay, yep. They will be in, Karen's office, probably.
I'll come if it's slick.
Okay.
Thank you, Carlin.
Uh-huh.
Thanks for doing that. I appreciate that. Yes, Goldie has an announcement.
I was gonna adjourn.
It's a good announcement.
Okay, go ahead.
I make a motion that the Board of Trustees adjourn for the evening.
I'll second.
That was Mike. That was Goldie and Mike.
Goldie and Mike. All right, take the vote. I know you're all gonna say aye.
All right. Patty,
Yes,
Goldie,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Carlin,
Yes.
Leanna,
Yes.
Becky, yes, Jane, and Dan.
Yes.
okay, the meeting is adjourned. Yeah, you did. I
was like, I gotta get this together.
Was this?
It was nice to see you, Emily.
Yeah. Instead of over the phone.
Well, that's how it works.
I'm always
He's on
coming
a-
from.
He's on a roll this month.
Oh, yeah.
I think I was in Council Grove, Kansas one time. Yeah.
I thought that you told me, or someone told me, that we didn't have to have a motion to adjourn, then I just say, this meeting is adjourned.
Either way.
Maybe so. Get out, get out.
I'll never know what I'm doing.
Well, we have to go in and out of closed
Do
session.
you want that?
I don't